I'm setting it now, 2570 BC, because everybody thinks they know how the pyramids got built, and everybody is about to be wrong. Sand. Everywhere. It's 50 degrees, and the air is shaking. A 2-ton block of stone just slid past me close enough to touch. I'm at the foot of the Great Pyramid, half built, crawling with thousands of people hauling stone up its side and watching them. I've got one really stupid question I can't get past. How is a single one of them still alive? Like physically, a body doing this is a furnace. It's burning fuel faster than almost anything a human body can do. What are you eating? What do you have to put into a person to make them capable of this? Every day for years? Let's actually do the math on the body in front of me. Modern estimates for this kind of work-heavy hauling, full days, in serious heat, run high, really high. We're talking somewhere in the range of a professional athlete mid-competition. A Tour de France cyclist burns 6,000 calories in a day and looks like he's dying. This guy is burning about the same, except he's doing it in the desert by hand. So this man needs to eat, a lot, constantly. Feed this man a handful of grain and a sip of water, and he's dead in a week. To get this kind of work out of a human being, you have to feed him like you actually need him alive. So, did they? Here's what the archaeology says, and it's the first crack in the whole story. Lehner Hawass and his team dug up the actual delivery numbers for the worker camp. Every single day, 21 cattle and 23 sheep were sent in from farms up and down the Nile to feed the crews. Every day. That's an entire herd, slaughtered daily, just for lunch. Now here's why that matters, and it's easy to miss. In the ancient world, meat was a luxury. Most people ate it a handful of times a year, like festivals, funerals, holy days. That was it. These workers ate it every single day. This tomb wall was the menu. 5 kinds of beer, 12 kinds of bread, and none of it was home cooking. The state built an entire food factory next to the pyramid. Rows of bakeries, breweries, pumping out beer by the million liters, grain silos taller than a man. And that's not prison food. Picture this. You're a poor farmer from some mud brick village up the Nile. Going to work on the pyramid might have been the best eating stretch of your entire life. Meat, bread, and beer, all this daily, handed to you by the state. And that's the exact moment the movie in your head starts to fall apart. Because MUKI has a very specific idea about who these people were. You know the scene. 1,000 slaves, ropes, a man in gold on a platform screaming, whip in hand. It's in every film, on every documentary poster. It's the first thing your brain coughs up when someone says the word pyramid. So where did that come from? Let me show you. Because it wasn't here and it wasn't now. Meet Herodotus. Greek tourist, writer, the man more responsible for the slave story than anyone else alive. And here's the problem with Herodotus. He showed up to write about the pyramids around 2,000 years after they were already finished. Let that number actually land. That's almost as big as the gap between us and Herodotus himself. It's like someone today writing the definitive, trust me I was there eyewitness account of Julius Caesar. Back to Herodotus. He didn't see anything. He wrote down the local legends, the gossip to make some noise, the tourist guide stories he got told standing at the base of a monument that was already ancient when he got there. He stamped the word slaves on it, and Hollywood ran with that version for the next few thousand years because a god king whipping slaves is just a better movie than what actually happened. So let me get back to the real thing, because in 1990, a horse tripped over the truth. Here's what happened. A tourist near the Giza plateau, the horse's leg went into a low ridge in the sand, and it stumbled. That ridge was the top of a wall. That wall was a tomb, and it wasn't the tomb of a king or a priest. It was the grave of the pyramid workers themselves. And here's the single detail that probably makes sense. Where were they buried? Right up against the pharaoh's pyramid, in a place of honor, in the sacred shadow of the god king himself. Lehner Hawass, who led the dig, said it about as bluntly as it can be said. There is no way, none, that you bury a slave in a place of honor beside a living god. If you were nobody, you did not get a tomb in that sacred ground. These people got exactly that, which means these people mattered. So if they weren't slaves, who were they? So let me show you what's left of them. It was savage. The skeletons in those tombs tell a hard story. Compressed vertebrae, spines literally squashed down from carrying crushing loads year after year. Healed fractures everywhere, some workers missing fingers. And then the detail that is genuinely interesting is, some skeletons show amputated limbs, a leg removed, and then healed, which means someone performed surgery on an injured worker and then cared for him. For months, long enough for the wound to close and the bone to knit back together. You do not nurse property back to health for months. You do that for a person who counts. Here's a small detail that tells you everything. The workers wore mustaches. The nobles of the time mostly didn't. Being clean-shaven in Egypt was a rich man's luxury. It meant you had the time and the smooth skin of someone who never worked. The nobles were shaved bald and smooth. The poor mostly didn't bother. So you could spot a pyramid guy on the street just by his upper lip. Picture it, a whole brotherhood of mustached, beer-drinking laborers building the largest structure on planet Earth and repping the look while they did it. And they didn't work like a chain gang. They worked like a sports league. Real crews with real names carved into the stone where we can still read them today. One team called themselves Friends of Khufu. Another, and this is real, called themselves the Drunkards of Menkaure. Imagine your construction crew was officially, on the record, the Drunkards. These teams competed. They had pride. They tagged the giant blocks they moved with their team names, like graffiti, like a signature. We were here. Remember us. Now the last piece. Every year the Nile flooded and drowned the farmland for months. The farmers couldn't farm. The fields were underwater. So during the flood season, those idle farmers came to Giza and built the pyramid instead. It was a rotation, a national project the whole country cycled through, season by season, generation by generation. Mark Lehner describes it as something between a giant government works job and a religious barn raising. The kind of thing you show up for partly because you have to, and partly because you actually want to be part of building the thing. A lot of them died young, most in their 30s. Building an artificial mountain by hand with copper tools and rope kills a body slowly. But they didn't die as anonymous slaves under a whip. They died fed, housed, and honored. And when it was over, they were buried beside their king. So let me tell you what I actually saw back there. I did not see slaves. I saw a guy with a mustache full of bread and beer, dragging stone with a crew officially named the Drunkards, wrecking his back for a wage, a meal, and a story, and then getting buried when his body finally gave out. In a place of honor next to his god king with a packed lunch for the afterlife. For 4,000 years, we told this story wrong. We looked at the single greatest thing ancient humans ever built. And because it was so huge, so impossible, we assumed it could only have come out of pure human misery. That something that big had to be soaked in suffering. But the bones say something better and stranger. The pyramids weren't built by slaves who were forced to. They were built in large part by people who chose to show up and who wanted the whole world forever to know they were there. And you know what? They got their wish. 4,500 years later, on the far side of the entire history of civilization, we are still looking up at this monument and amazed at how it was all accomplished by humans such a long time ago. I'm setting the machine for ancient China to dig up the truth about the dead bodies in the Great Wall. Follow me there. Bye.